Hi there, my name is Simon Moffatt, founder and research analyst at the Cyber Hut. In this video, I want to introduce our new Matrix IAM intelligence platform. Now, the Cyber Hut has been tracking over 130 different vendors across the identity and identity security spaces for about 5 years. And we've built out quite a big database of all of the different vendors, their capabilities, their history, the narrative, etc. And we obviously use that as part of our research mechanism to enable the market around where these vendors are heading and what sort of capabilities they have. But clearly, there's also an opportunity to leverage that information to essentially deliver an online platform that allows both the buy side, the sell side, and the investment community to essentially do some more, self-service analysis of either procurement needs, market capabilities, competitive intelligence position, but essentially providing a self-service way of being able to understand the market, identify vendors that have particular capabilities, understand and expand on competitive intelligence positions, help with investment due diligence, and so on. And all of that essentially wraps into our proprietary market taxonomy, which looks at all of the various different vendors and tries to then apply a bit of a repeatable methodology around what capabilities they have, what are their primary features, what are their secondary features, and how that can be used to identify potential competitors. So essentially, the Matrix allows you to search over 130 different vendors in a whole host of different areas. Essentially, the B2E workforce identity space, B2C for customers and consumers, non-human identity, and obviously the last probably 2 or 3 years, more vendors delivering capabilities in the agentic identity space as well. Essentially, the portal allows you to browse, select up to 4 vendors and do a dynamic comparison. This comparison is essentially based on 2 proprietary scoring coefficients. One is a capability score and one is a market penetration score. Ultimately, this is trying to look at both the technical capabilities of the vendor as well as the ability for them to execute in their go-to-market area. And both those essentially use, based on open source intelligence, based on our own expert commentary in there as well, to be able to understand things like the breadth and depth of individual platform capabilities, as well as looking at things like funding rounds, employee headcounts, hiring, their age, and so on, which sort of helps determine a bit of a proxy as to how well they could serve a particular market. And we sort of add this across both the primary tags and capabilities they have, as well as secondary features in there as well. We also add in an analyst comment, which is basically our specialist guidance around what those vendors, perhaps what vendor future outlook they may have, what strategic future outlook they may have, maybe a comment on an acquisition or an integration that they've done recently. But that again allows you to provide a little bit of expert opinion in there. And out of the 4 selected vendors, you can then export to a simple PDF, which can be used for internal analysis if you're looking to do procurement, RFP support, or obviously competitive intel if you're looking at this from the sell side as well. So let me just quickly jump into the product, give you a quick demo while we are here. So I just click on here. So essentially, this is a very simple SaaS-based application. The idea really is to take a lot of complex information which we've collected and analysed over the past 5 years and make this as simple to navigate and operate as possible. So the immediate entry point is our standard dashboard, essentially, which gives you a very high-level overview of all of the vendors that we track. And this again breaks down into the 4 main identity type buckets: workforce, consumer, NHI, and agentic. So basically high-level metrics there around how many vendors we track per area. B2E identity is the most popular, as you would expect, simply due to the maturity of the B2E and workforce ecosystem. Agentic and NHI, both catching up. In there, a bit of intel on the age of all the vendors that we track, information on funding mix, headcount distribution, size of those vendors which we pull in from open source signals in there. And then we start to break down and use our own taxonomy essentially around the capabilities that we've identified within each of these identity types. And the first initial dashboard here is just showing a bit of the most common capability codes. B2E authentication is the most popular based on our analysis. 37 different vendors provide some sort of authentication capabilities in there. And everywhere where possible, there's a bit of a hover over which tries to explain things like the acronyms, what the actual taxonomy tag looks to achieve, and so on. So again, so you can start to build out your own capability maps instead of focusing historically on some of those legacy categories like IGA and PAM and all of the I guess more classic ways analyst firms have tried to compare vendors in the past. I think we're clearly moving now to a capability-led view of the world. So we're trying to break down what those capabilities are. And of course, everywhere there's a capability, we try and bit of a hover over to explain what those capabilities are looking to deliver. And then we have this sort of a very high-level basic way of trying to compare vendors. Now, this is incredibly difficult to do. I think that there's a lot more involved in the due diligence, whether you are a buy side, an investor, a sell side looking to compare yourself with other orthogonal vendor in your area. And we essentially we've got two variables here, a capability score and a market score. Ultimately, you have a matrix which you can then have a little bit of a compare and trust upon. So if we click on browse, essentially it gives us a whole host of 134 vendors as this is being recorded in July. We typically add in about 4 to 6 vendors every month based on briefings and based on our level of expertise on those vendors. But essentially, we have a whole host of vendors here covering all the different sectors that we try and track. And you can go through, you can search this A to Z, pick a particular taxonomy, pick a particular identity type, and essentially pull out which vendors you want to look at. And if we let's pick on Microsoft, because it's a pretty well-known vendor. If we click into the actual vendor itself, you get a very basic vendor profile card here, which gives a bit of a description as to who they are, some of the tags, a bit of a capability breakdown based on their breadth, depth, differentiation, and future capabilities. Let's go back. We go back and pick a vendor which is slightly more specialized, I suppose. Going to go Brightive, modern runtime PAM. So basically pull out information which wraps around their own descriptions, their own narrative as to what they are trying to achieve. We have the cap score and the market score based on breadth, depth, differentiation, and future capabilities. A bit of open source intel on things like the age, funding, etc. Then we have an analyst comment, which is written obviously by ourselves based on our understanding of what they do. Their primary capability areas, in this case, B2B PAM, B2B lifecycle, agentic discovery, agentic lifecycle, agentic authorization, and then some free-form tags in there as well, looking at things like zero trust. And I guess the first part of this process is to browse the entire market, collapse that into vendors that you want to compare. So in this case, we will, let's add in Brightive to do some comparison, and let's go and look at some more PAM related vendors. Let's pick on CyberArk. We can add that to our comparison. What else do we have? We go back into B2B PAM and let's pick on P0 as well, add that to comparison. And then we click on our compare tab. We essentially then have collapsed our view into the 3 specific vendors, and we're essentially then pulling in all of the data signals that we have in that single vendor view, and we can have a bit of a way of having a single page there, which we can look and say, what do these vendors do? What's their cap score? What funding have they had? Their age, etc. What the market focus is? Are they mid, large enterprises? Are they small? Are they global enterprises? Commentary in their own words on how they describe themselves. And then we have the analyst comments at the bottom. And this in turn can then be exported as a PDF report. So you can then obviously go and use that as part of your own internal due diligence or part of your own process for whatever competitive intel we're trying to understand that particular sector in a little bit more detail. In addition to that, you may then wish to go through and do analyst briefing, analyst inquiry with ourselves, one-to-one, get some more detailed specialist guidance there. In future releases, we are going to be adding in the ability to have a full analyst report on the specific vendor themselves, which is about an 8 to 10 page specialist report outlining exactly the strengths, weaknesses, and capabilities of the vendor itself. And the final little button at the top, the ones to watch. So these are vendors which essentially now are backlog to be added in to the matrix. There's about 30 odd vendors in here, relatively new vendors, A lot of them have come out stealth. A lot of them have had maybe Series A funding. These will over time be added in to our matrix, and will have the same capabilities as we work with those vendors to get briefings and add them in to the overarching matrix. Any questions or comments, please do get in touch. If you want to be added in to both our beta testing or are interested in subscribing to the production version of the matrix, please do get in touch. But this has been a quick demo looking at our new online matrix platform. Thank you for watching, and we will see you next time.